Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
There's going to be a new look for British passports following Brexit. It's been announced they'll change colour from burgundy to blue. Dark blue was the colour used for the first British passport in 1921. It changed to the current burgundy in 1988 when the UK joined the EU. From October 2019, the British passport will return to its original blue and gold design in what's being described as a unique opportunity to restore national identity. The change will come at a cost of around £490 million. Joining me to discuss the change is the Conservative MP for Lichfield, Michael Fabricant, and businesswoman and transparency activist Gina Miller. Welcome to you both. To you first of all, Michael Fabricant, are you looking forward to the colour change?
Yes, I am, but it's wrong to say that it's going to cost £490 million for the colour change. It's not going to cost a penny because there was going to be a change anyway to the passport. Every 4 or 5 years they're updated in order to get the latest devices installed in them, electronic devices, to stop forgery. So that upgrade was going to happen, and you know, on the passport at present, it says European Union, so they were going to have to take that off. But I can tell Sky News that the difference in costs between using a maroon colour and a blue colour is zero, so it won't cost the taxpayer anything.
Right, it will cost, but not anymore, is what you're saying. Gina Miller, are you looking forward to the colour change that's going to come into play?
Well, I think Michael's absolutely right about the security. I mean, we have to welcome the new security in the passports because there's been years of underinvestment in both our security and also the border agencies. So that's to be welcomed. But when it comes to colour, like people, colour doesn't matter to me. It's what's inside and what's underneath. And I think we need to start telling people and being honest with them about the fact that of, say, the 13 million trips that are taken each year to Spain, that there is going to be a cost in the Schengen visa, which is going to cost each person €60, only lasts for 60 days, and then they have to apply for that in person. So there is going to be a cost to travel with that passport in future.
The passport... some of the arguments that are put forward is that it does really bolster national identity. Would you have any sort of opinion on that or any sympathy with that line of thought? Gina?
I think identity is much more than a passport. I mean, it's obviously something to be proud of, and it would have had to change anyway because our present passport says European Union at the top. So it is sensible, it's common sense to go back to what we had before. Whether or not it boosts national identity, I think our national identity is so much more than just a passport.
Michael Fabricant, does it aid in national identity?
Well, I think the blue is a nice traditional thing. By the way, Gina Miller's completely wrong. We're not in Schengen now. There's going to be no cost to going to Spain. That was a ridiculous statement to make. And the current passport,
I'm sorry, we're leaving the European Union.
Security measures.
So we will
We're
have to
leaving
have
the European
visas.
Union, but we're certainly not leaving Europe. And I can tell you that the Spanish need our business, and the Spanish have made it absolutely clear, as has the rest of the European Union, and you know that, Gina, that there will be no visa between the United Kingdom and the European Union. So please, just stop saying these ridiculous things because of your obsession with our not leaving the EU. We voted for it.
Michael, you don't know my obsession, actually. My obsession is to get this right and not make a disastrous job that your government is doing at the moment in trying to get this Brexit deal. That's what I'm obsessed with, is that we do this in a way that's legal and we get the best possible deal.
Yeah?
I'm not making things up.
Do you think that's a good idea, that you don't make things up?
Excuse me, if we are out of the European Union, we do not have free movement. How are we going to get into the Union? We need to have a visa. You're the one who is leading people down the path.
Michael?
No, there are lots of countries which come where You don't need a visa for many countries to come to the United Kingdom, which are not in the EU. Many countries, which are not in the EU, just enter the European Union. All you're doing, Gina, is scaremongering, and I don't think you're going to convince many people.
We haven't come to the end of this negotiation process, so we don't know what's going to be agreed. But there may be visas. I mean, at the moment, we are not a part of the EU. If we are not part of the EU, we will need some sort of mechanism to get in. But there will definitely be queues.
We are part of the EU at the moment.
No, once we've left. Well, I thought we were talking about after we've left. We're talking about afterwards.
Why will there be queues? Why will there be queues? When I enter the United States, depending on where I'm going, sometimes there are queues, sometimes there are not.
A third
Look,
country.
I really think all this scaremongering is actually damaging your reputation, not actually the reputation of Brexit.
Look, my reputation's fine, thank you very much. I'm not going to fall for these sort of personal assaults. I thought we were here talking about passports, and we were talking about the effect of that.
Yes, let's stick to that rather than any personal accusations. But Gina Miller, on to the idea of visas. Do you realistically think that that will be the case for people carrying a British passport, that they will need visas to enter other European countries?
Well, I'd like to know how that would work, because we will be what's classed as a third country. So we would have to have some sort of mechanism and checks to go into Europe and to travel around. And at the moment, people going to Europe who are not part of the European Union need to have a Schengen visa.
Michael Fabricant, why do you think it's completely out of the question that we should require visas to travel in Europe, that might be a scenario in the future?
Well, for two reasons. First of all, we're not in Schengen now, so nothing has changed on that score. And furthermore, as I said earlier, it's in the interests of Spain and France to get British tourists, as they do from other third countries, which don't need visas. So why we would suddenly be unique, be classed in the same way as China or Russia, you know, it's not going to happen. Of course it's not. Now, all this is just like the sort of nonsense we all heard during the actual EU referendum. They're scare stories. It's not going to happen. Let's just rejoice in the fact that our security now on British passports are very good. Look, there's a chip there now, and it's the latest type, and we're just going to upgrade it in the new passport. And all this objection to having a blue one, I think it just demonstrates really where Gina Miller's coming from. I like blue. Others
I have not
choose to have red.
objected.
I think the
When did I say that I was objecting?
Which is very important.
When did I say I
is to say that people who have got existing passports won't have to change until their time has expired.
Michael, you are making things up.
I'll just interject there. Michael, did you actually hear Gina Miller there? She's not objecting to the new passport.
I've said the colour doesn't matter to me. It is what's inside the passport, and the security elements and upgrades are long overdue, and we needed to do that, and that's a very good measure.
Overdue.
We have underinvested.
This is the latest passport, which is currently in the United Kingdom, and it's there with the United States and Canada. There are no passport upgrades in any other country which are any better than the current one, but nevertheless we use new encryption. That happens regularly, and that'll be done. So let's not even knock the passport, please.
I'm not knocking the passport. I'm saying that we've underinvested. You can't tell me we haven't underinvested in our border agencies.
Have we? What way have we underinvested in the passport?
No. In the passport and the security.
Please tell me, in what way our passport is currently no less secure than, say, a United States passport? Because I think we all want to hear. Be specific, please.
Well, you aren't being specific about anything, but anyway, going back to my point is that we have been underinvesting in our border agencies, in people who've come with visas and have overstayed, and we could have done encryption sooner. But for whatever reason, we're doing it now, which is a very welcomed.
I'm very pleased to hear now that you're saying that we've got to tighten our security. I'm very pleased to hear that you're saying we need tight border controls. That's very reassuring and a very different sort of story than what I've heard from you in the past. Look, I think all we should do is just say it's great that we're getting a new passport, it's great we're leaving the EU, and let's enjoy.
Michael Fabricant and Gina Miller, although you're giving the other impression, I think you're actually agreeing in that you're both looking forward to your secure blue passports. Am I correct?
Yes, I have no problem with that whatsoever.
Right, so
Yes.
we shall leave it on that note of agreement, though, although you tried very hard to show us otherwise. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Michael Fabricant and Gina Miller there. So how do we feel about all of this? Well, here to discuss this is the Labour MEP Richard Corbett and the Conservative MP Andrew Bridgen. Thank you both for joining me tonight. Richard, if I start with you, this is brilliant, isn't it? We're getting the UK back, we're getting our sovereignty back, we're getting our old blue passports back.
Yeah, well, people I meet from other countries have been almost laughing at me, saying, well, you've got all the economic disruption of leaving the EU, all the problems that you have to negotiate, but your passports are going to be blue again. Isn't that fantastic? And I must say, I'm wearing a blue shirt at the moment. Does it make me feel more British? Does it fill me with patriotic pride that I'm not wearing a green shirt or a burgundy shirt or a yellow shirt? I don't think it makes a blind bit of difference.
Andrew, it looks like Europeans are laughing at us. We should be focusing on bigger issues when leaving the EU, not the colour of our passports.
Well, I think it is totemic for those of us who want to leave the European Union, and Richard's obviously not one of those. He's working tirelessly to stop us leaving the European Union. The most important thing is not the colour of the passport, it's the fact that it won't any longer have European Union on it, and we will be a sovereign country. Of course, that means that we won't need any MEPs anymore, and in 15 months' time, Richard will be redundant, and we'll have all the power back in Westminster where it belongs, and which is what the people voted for in the referendum.
Yeah, Richard, is this sour grapes from you? Are you trying to stop us leaving the EU because you're not going to have a job at the end of it all?
Well, changing the colour of the passport has nothing to do with leaving the EU. We could have had a blue passport staying in the EU. Croatia, for instance, has blue passports, although it's a member of the EU and sticks to the same common format of passports that all EU countries...
Croatia is transitioning, though, to a burgundy passport.
Well, the common format is more about practicalities, like are passports machine readable across Europe? Are they valid? Are they recognised everywhere? The colour is a secondary issue, and you could have kept a blue passport if you'd wanted.
So it's going to cost us £490 million, nearly half, £500 million. This is a lot of money, isn't it? And this is money that could be going to other issues as we leave the EU, Andrew, isn't it?
Well, the government aren't actually changing the colour of the passport until October 2019, because that's when the current contract for the passport that we use runs out. From the 31st of March 2019, after we've left the European Union, the new burgundy passports won't have European Union on them anymore. So actually, we were going to have the passport contract change. It's going to give us a chance to have every latest technological addition to the new passports in October 2019, and I'm sure that many people will want to swap in their old passports for a new revitalised British passport, which is going to be blue, and it's going to be part of our national identity and a sign of our sovereignty.
I mean, Andrew does have a point. There are going to be new, better security methods added to this new passport as well. It's not just about the colour change, is it?
New security features are added every few years to passports. That's nothing to do with this particular idea of suddenly changing the colour. You mentioned there's a certain cost to this. If there is a cost, I've heard rumours of up to £500 million. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, wouldn't it be better to spend that money on the NHS than changing the colour of our passports? I mean, really.
Yeah, it's a good point there from Richard, Andrew, isn't it? All this money we were supposed to be getting towards the NHS, this is money that could certainly go towards that.
Well, of course, once we've left the European Union, we won't be paying these huge £10 billion subscriptions every year, increasing as in a few years' time if we were remaining in, because Labour gave away the rest of our rebate. So
no, it doesn't really justify. No, it doesn't really justify. If we have the extra money, it doesn't really justify wasting it. Some would argue on the changing the colours of your passport. That is money which could be going towards things like the NHS.
Well, the current contract for supplying the British EU passports runs out in October 2019, and that's when the contracts are being changed, and that's the same time as we're changing the colour. We're not changing the colour the moment we leave the European Union on the 31st of March.
Sorry, Richard, go on.
if somebody could put Richard's mic up.
Here is that we were told by Brexiteers in the referendum campaign that leaving the EU would save us lots of money, which would all go to the NHS. In fact, it's turning out to be a rather costly, damaging exercise. It's going to cost an enormous amount, not save money at all. So I'm not surprised that these opinion polls are showing that many people want to reconsider the question of membership of the European Union and doubt the value of leaving it.
But Richard, some would argue that this is about sovereignty. It is about taking our country back. This is what people potentially voted to leave the EU
We've
wanted.
never lost our country.
Well, this is what people.
We've never lost our country.
This is what.
It's just that as a country, we worked with our neighbours jointly on certain things where there was a value in doing so, to save costs or to gain advantage of working together. But we remained, and we always did remain, a sovereign country.
But sovereignty in our courts, this is something that we have got back. And for many people who voted to leave the EU, getting the blue passports back is a sign that that is happening. It's a reality for them.
I'm not sure what you mean that we've regained sovereignty of our courts. The European Court only ruled on common rules that we made with the European Union, with our fellow countries, when there was a dispute about it. How we run our own court system always was a matter for the UK.
And yeah, Andrew, I wanted to put to you, there's a chance that these passports will continue to be made in Germany, in the EU. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm going to be speaking to the Immigration Minister, Brandon Lewis. I think we should have the contract given to a UK company. It would be disappointing if they're still made in Germany, but the most important thing is that new passports will not have European Union on them. We'll have delivered on the will of the British people, and I can understand why Richard's upset about this. He's campaigned to remain in the European Union, he lost the referendum, he's losing the battle now, and when we have those new passports without European Union on, whether they're burgundy or whether they're blue, that's going to be a totemic mark for those of us who wish to leave the European Union, and it'll strike a blow for democracy. And I can understand people who don't like democracy. They probably do like the European Union, because there's very little things less democratic than the European Union.
It's not just Andrew who's upset here. We had our own poll, and 59% didn't care what colour our passports were. 19% even said, actually, let's keep it burgundy. This looks like it potentially might not be a problem, but for many people out there.
Well, I'm not so. But it is the fact that our passports won't have European Union on them. If you remember back in 2000, the European Union actually wanted to have the stars on the front of a British passport and take the Queen's crest off. We fought that off in 2000.
OK, Andrew Bridgen and Richard Corbett, good talking to you both. But they are coming. We are going to get blue passports October 2019.
British passport covers are to revert to classic blue once Britain leaves the European Union in 2019. The current burgundy passports will continue to be issued until then, but without the EU insignia. The Home Office says the new blue passport will be more high-tech and secure to prevent fraud and forgery. Our Home Affairs correspondent Tom Simons reports.
The Great British Passport, shortly to be available not in European burgundy, because it turns out Brexit means blue.
So the new Brexit passport...
The government admits it's largely symbolic, restoring our national identity. Outside the passport office, what's the reaction?
It's blue, isn't it? It's back to England.
I think it's a crying shame. We have this fantastic ability to travel around the rest of the world, and we are looked upon favourably with our immigration policy and everything else. And I think now it's just a bit embarrassing, really, to be honest.
I think the decision was a huge aspect of, the country moving forward, and I think in order to move forward there needs to be changes, and if that's going to be distinguished by a simple colour, then why not?
Well, what's the difference?
It's a different colour. That's it.
I just preferred it when we were in Europe, everything.
Really?
Just everything, yeah.
The last true British passport was hard-backed, much bigger, and a very, very dark blue. The European one, which replaced it way back now in 1988, was smaller, floppy, and much easier to put in a pocket. The new one, and this is just a mock-up, will be of roughly the same design, but it will keep all of the security features which make it so hard to copy, and it will add some.
This is the passport of the future, and it's in circulation from today.
When the red EU passport was introduced 30 years ago, Britain agreed to a common standard. it didn't have to accept the colour. Croatia's passport remains blue. Even so, the burgundy one was never loved.
I think it's one of the most revolting, insignificant, tiny-minded, small pieces of paper I've ever had the misfortune to witness. It's not really a British passport, is it?
These days, passports are redesigned regularly to cut fraud, so the blue ones should not cost more. They'll start appearing in 2019.
People who already have a passport have no need to do anything at the moment. Even at that point, if people have still got time left on their passport, we're not asking them to change at that point. But obviously people can renew at whatever point they want, should they wish to move to a new passport.
Brexit is tough. Changing the passport colour relatively easy. But like Brexit, it's dividing the nation between those who say at last and those who say why bother. Tom Simons, BBC News at the Passport Office.
It might take 4 hours to get through customs, but at least our passports will be blue as your mood. So say some of the jokes making the rounds on social media after the government announced the British passport would return to its old dark blue cover when Britain leaves the EU. Is this Brexit's first solid achievement, or an old-fashioned nostalgia for something that isn't actually what it seems? Ed Hauke has been finding out.
How do you define a nation? Is it with national celebrations, iconic landmarks, or with a colour? Today, the Prime Minister took to Twitter to address this question, celebrating her government's decision to change the colour of the British passport from maroon back to blue. The UK passport is an expression of our independence and sovereignty, symbolising our citizenship of a proud great nation. That's why we have announced that the iconic #blue passport will return after we leave the European Union in 2019. The announcement was also welcomed by Brexit supporters, including Nigel Farage, who has long campaigned for the passport colour to change.
I have loathed it for 30 years. I've loathed the fact that in the name of trading freely with our neighbours, we effectively got rid of our national identity. And what's happening here is we're getting it back. So happy Brexmas.
But the passport that appeared on the front page of The Sun today is very different from the old one. It's a different size. It doesn't even mention the word British. And the old passport was rather more black than blue in any case. So it's a different colour.
Every 5 years or so, we do update the passport to make sure we stay ahead of fraudsters and those looking to use forgeries. And the next update is due around late 2019. And that does give us an opportunity, as we've left the European Union by that stage, to look again at how we want our passport to be and what we want it to look like. We thought it's the right time to announce we are going to return to that classic, almost iconic British blue.
The trouble is, the new passport design issued by the Home Office today, and which appeared on the Prime Minister's own Twitter feed, literally can't be taken at face value. I spoke to the Home Office today, I asked them who designed it, and they said, "We will work with the supplier of the design once they have been chosen." And they described it as a government mock-up.
It was a stunt, nothing more than that. But I think the fundamental issue here is that whether our EU passport was a red, white or blue colour, in fact what we're doing by getting rid of our EU passport is in fact jettisoning many rights that we have, for instance the right to travel, to study and to live freely in the European Union. So there's a real loss attached to this.
And there's a final irony. The EU did not make a binding resolution to force the British passport to be maroon. Croatia, which joined in 2013, continues to issue passports in darkest blue. So the first major victory of Brexit may even have been possible without leaving the European Union.
Ed Hauke reporting.